Welcome back. In life, some mistakes just make you blush in the office, but others burn billions of dollars, humiliate entire nations, or even alter the destiny of a continent. From France buying trains that were too fat to fit in the stations to NASA turning a Mars probe into space dust just because they forgot to convert units. And the #1 spot is a national disaster that was completely irreversible. Today, let's join world's greatest as we count down the 10 most expensive, embarrassing, and catastrophic self-destruct moments in history. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Number 10. France's obese trains. In 2014, the French National Railway Company SNCF decided to go big, spending 15 billion euros, about 16 billion US dollars, to buy 2,000 new generation trains to revamp the country's transport system. They excitedly designed the trains based on modern theoretical blueprints. But the tragedy was they forgot that France still has thousands of train stations built in the last century. The result? The new trains were too wide, or rather too fat. When a train pulled into a station, it scraped against the platform or got stuck, entirely unable to open its doors. It was like a person trying to squeeze into a pair of jeans from high school. It turned out the planning department and the operations department never talked to each other. They only measured the modern stations and ignored 1,300 old rural platforms. The trains were already bought and couldn't be returned. The only solution was to chip away and shave down the platforms of over 1,000 stations. This stupid mistake cost an extra 50 million euros in repairs, bringing the total loss to over 150 million euros, and turned the French railway industry into the laughingstock of Europe. Number 9. NASA's unit conversion. Fail. In 1999, NASA's control room was dead silent. Everyone held their breath, waiting for a signal from the Mars Climate Orbiter, a $327 million mission to explore the red planet. But the signal never came. The ship had vanished. After frantic data checks, programmers discovered a shocking truth. The engineering team at Lockheed Martin, who built the thrusters, used imperial units pounds, while NASA's computers defaulted to the metric system newtons. Simply because no one converted the units, the probe slammed into the Martian atmosphere like a supercar with no brakes, tearing apart and burning up. $327 million evaporated into thin air because of elementary school math. NASA later admitted this was a humiliating lesson in technical communication carelessness. Number 8. The Ford Pinto and the cost of a life. In the 70s, to compete with cheap Japanese cars, Ford released the Pinto. It was compact, stylish, and sold like hotcakes, but this car had a death switch. The gas tank was placed right behind the rear bumper, shielded only by a thin layer of metal. A simple rear-end collision could turn the car into a firebomb, jamming the doors and trapping passengers inside. The horrifying part, Ford knew about this flaw, but they made a cold-blooded calculation. Recalling the cars to fix them would cost $11 per car, totaling $137 million. But paying off settlements for burn victims would only cost about $49 million. So they chose the second option, ignoring human life because it was cheaper. When this ruthless memo was leaked, America was outraged. Ford had to recall millions of vehicles, pay hundreds of millions in damages, and will forever bear the stain of putting profit over people. Number 7. The Cowardly Captain and the Costa Concordia. In 2012, the super luxury cruise ship Costa Concordia carrying over 4,200 people, was gliding through the Mediterranean. It was a floating palace. But Captain Francesco Schettino, likely trying to impress a female crew member, decided to steer the ship dangerously close to Giglio Island to perform a salute. The result: the ship hit a reef, tore a massive gash in the hull, and capsized. The most despicable part. While passengers were panicking, Captain Schettino fled. He hopped into a lifeboat, abandoning his ship and passengers, even as the Coast Guard screamed at him over the phone to get back on board. The accident killed 32 people and turned the multi-hundred-million-dollar ship into scrap metal. Total economic losses exceeded $2 billion, including salvage and compensation. The captain received a 16-year prison sentence and the title of the world's most cowardly captain. Number 6. The Titanic disaster. In 1912, the White Star Line wanted to shock the world with the unsinkable Titanic. But Mother Nature replied with an iceberg. The Titanic sank on its maiden voyage, taking over 1,500 lives. The biggest mistake wasn't just hitting the ice, but arrogance. The world's most luxurious ship, 269 meters long, only carried 20 lifeboats, instead of the designed 64, simply because they didn't want to clutter the deck. The financial loss at the time was $7.5 million, about $200 million today, but the loss of life and reputation was immeasurable. This disaster forced the world to rewrite maritime safety laws, and of course it left us with the tragic love story of Jack and Rose that still brings tears to millions. Number 5. Ariane. 5. And the most expensive copy-paste. On June 4, 1996, Europe's Ariane 5 rocket carrying Pride and 2 satellites worth $500 million left the launch pad. 37 seconds later, boom! The rocket self-destructed, creating the most expensive fireworks display in history. The cause: a stupid software bug. The engineers had copy-pasted the control code from the older model Ariane 4 to the new one. But the Ariane 5 flew much faster, causing a velocity data overflow, trying to fit a 64-bit number into a 16-bit space. The computer system panicked and triggered self-destruction. $370 million for the rocket, plus $500 million for the satellites, vanished in less than a minute. This is considered one of the most expensive software bugs of all time, a bloody lesson for programmers. Never copy-paste without checking. Number 4. Fat finger at the Tokyo Stock Exchange. In 2005, a trader at Mizuho Securities in Japan intended to sell one share of a company called JCOM for 610,000 yen. But due to carelessness, he typed it backward. Sell 610,000 shares for 1 yen. The trading system had no warning pop-up. The order went through. 610,000 shares, 40 times the actual number of shares the company had, were sold for basically free. Mizuho panicked and tried to cancel, but the Tokyo Stock Exchange refused. In just minutes, Mizuho lost about $225 million, nearly 30 billion yen. The Japanese stock market was shaken. This mistake is known as the legendary fat finger error, reminding finance pros that one wrong click can burn a fortune. Number 3. Deepwater Horizon Oil Spill BP. In 2010, BP's Deepwater Horizon rig in the Gulf of Mexico exploded. 11 workers died. But the real disaster came after crude oil spewed uncontrollably from the ocean floor for 87 days. Over 130 million gallons of oil spilled into the ocean, killing thousands of marine animals and destroying the ecosystem of a massive region. The root cause, money again. BP cut corners on safety procedures and ignored pressure warning signs to save time and cost. As a result, they paid a price 1,000 times higher. Total cleanup costs, fines, and settlements exceeded $65 billion. An energy giant was brought to its knees, and the Gulf of Mexico became a tragic testament to human greed. Number 2. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster. In 1986 in Ukraine, then Soviet Union engineers at the Chernobyl nuclear plant wanted to run a safety test. But a combination of flawed reactor design and a series of human errors led to the explosion of Reactor 4. Radiation released into the environment was 400 times that of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. A vast area became a dead zone for tens of thousands of years. The bustling city of Pripyat turned into a ghost town overnight. The Soviet Union tried to cover up the severity, but a radioactive cloud drifting over Sweden exposed everything. Direct costs to deal with the disaster ran into hundreds of billions of dollars, not to mention the loss of life and cancer legacy spanning generations. It was also a nail in the coffin for the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union. Number 1. The Fukushima nuclear disaster. Topping the list is the double disaster of 2011 in Japan. A 9.0 magnitude earthquake triggered a 15-meter tsunami that slammed into the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The tsunami breached the seawall, which was built too low to save money, and flooded the backup generators located in the basement. With power lost, cooling systems failed, leading to meltdowns and explosions in the reactors. 300,000 people had to evacuate. Total economic losses are estimated at over $220 billion, making this the most expensive industrial accident in human history. What makes it worse is that this was avoidable. The power company TEPCO had ignored previous warnings about tsunami risks. Complacency and cutting corners cost Japan a devastating price. Of these 10 expensive mistakes, which one leaves you the most speechless? The wrong mouse, click in Japan, or the cold calculation of Ford? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos. Goodbye.